Hello everyone, it's Devin and welcome to our garden. I'll be providing a quick update what is happening today. We are coming close to the end of May and the current temperature is about 17 degrees Celsius and it's very sunny. Here is what we got growing today in our little raised garden bed which I built a while ago. I'll talk more about those in the future. So this first box here is our lavender plant. We actually picked up from a local farm. Once upon a time, it has been growing very well, and we planted this, I would say, about last year sometime, and here it is nice and lush this year, which is really great. I'm looking forward to that for wonderful teas. In box number 2, as you can see, we got some radishes growing here. We actually have 2 different kinds of radish varieties that we are popping up in this little garden bed, and I'll show you the second variety once we get to it. Okay, next box here to the left is some carrots. They're starting to sprout up, but still got a little bit of time to go before they go, so I'm looking forward to those. And quick fun fact about carrots, they actually like to be cold, so the colder carrots are, they actually can get sweeter. So I've heard that, I thought was kind of interesting, so looking forward to getting some sweet carrots. We popped those in about this year. And over here in our next one is our beets. They're starting to pop up too. I'm personally not a huge fan of beets, but Anna loves her beets. Over here is our dead lavender. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it. We actually bought it this year from a local store, and it just didn't seem to work out well, so it kind of got toasted. We're not sure exactly what happened. And just underneath it is our lovely Brussels sprouts. Popping up nice and great. Looking very good. And swapping over to the right is our strawberry plant. One of the 2 varieties that we got growing in here. I'm not sure which particular name for this one is. I think it's the Summer Breeze White. As you know, it's a flower. It's very pretty, so I'm looking forward to tasting that once it pops up. And this over one here is the Summer Breeze Rose strawberry plant. As you see, we'll have 1 strawberry popping around, but unfortunately we had a little bunny issue earlier in this season. They took out some of the other buds from there, so hopefully with our new fence that we popped up, that will reduce the bunnies visiting unwelcomed. And just over this little spot here, can't really see it right now, but it's our, oops, my hand's in the way. In this spot over here, it's our carrots growing up. They're just starting to sprout out now, so they still got a lot of time to grow. So we'll probably get a harvest later on in the future. And over in this next box is the other variety of radishes that I was mentioned earlier. So this is the purple radish. Notice the leaf stems are very different colors, so I'm quite curious what they're going to taste like once we get there. Pardon the other plant crying over our screen. We have a wonderful massive plant, which I'll get to in a quick second. Over in this box over here is our pineapple sage. Now, there's a flavor I heard about last year. I definitely wanted to plant it and give it a shot, see what it tastes like, because apparently it should have a nice little sweet texture to it, so we're looking forward to trying it once it pops up. Over in this next little box here is actually calendula. What the calendula plant is, it has a very pretty blossom, and they're actually great for tea. So I think ultimately our goal with this box in the future, once things start popping up, maybe turning it to possibly a tea box, but we have yet to decide officially what we're going to do, but it's one of the topics we're thinking of. Over in this next box is parsley, we believe. I think we planted it last year and it self-seeded itself, which is wonderful to see. And over here is the massive monster I was referring to earlier. It's our lovely chamomile plant. Also a very good plant to put for teas. Notice the flowers are popping out, and this has popped up very quickly, so I'm very impressed with the growth here.
And this is our potato plant. We planted these potatoes in mid-April, so this is only about a month and a half of growth. And it takes about 2 to 3 months to grow potatoes from seed to harvest. So we're about halfway there. No flowers yet, but there's definitely some good healthy growth on these potatoes. Now, we like growing them in grow bags because it's much easier to harvest them. We don't need to dig them out and look for them in the ground. We just, dig in with our hands and just scoop them right out of the grow bag. So it's a really fun, easy process. And you can see here that we're using straw mulch to cover the surface of the ground here in the grow bag. And we do that to help us retain the moisture and minimize the need to water the potatoes because they're not, in the ground where there's a lot of moisture retention and the water drains very quickly through the grow bag. So this is really helping us keep them nice and watered, helps with the evaporation, so it's really a great way to utilize grow bags and grow really nice and healthy crops. Speaking of crops, you can kind of grow anything inside of a grow bag. It's a really easy medium, and so, we're growing potatoes, but it might as well have been beans or lettuce or cabbage or really any other crop that you can think of, um, that grows in the ground can grow just as well inside of a grow bag. So it's a really fun way to grow something and help us kind of avoid those pesky weeds that we have, that you see here in the garden. So definitely try it out for some of your crops. And this back section of the garden is a mix of many different things. In this little patch here, I'm kind of practicing with growing along the fence that we've just installed recently. So I have some cucumbers and some pole beans that I'm hoping will climb the fence and have that, vertical growing going on for us. So we'll see how they do. They're just barely coming up and can't really be seen that well. The next patch over is my wildflower patch. I planted a mix of different local native flowers and wildflowers, although the weeds seem to be taking over. So we'll see how this patch works out. I'm using the cardboard method here just to kind of help out, suffocate the weeds, but they seem to be breaking through anyway. So not too hopeful, but we'll see how that goes. The next patch over is a little corn patch that we've set up. Growing corn is a little bit tricky because you kind of need to grow 4 rows of corn, 4 by 4 feet. We don't really have that much space, so we're trying a smaller patch with a little bit of turnips in the front. We'll see how it does. I mean, we definitely have growth, and it's germinated nicely, so maybe we'll have a nice, good crop of corn this year. But it is definitely very much an experiment on our end. And then right next to the corn patch, we've got this little raised bed set up that is really a mix of everything. There's a little bit of everything growing in here. Some of it is volunteer dill that self-seeded itself from last year. We had a single dill plant in the garden that just spread its seeds all over the garden, which I really appreciate, so no complaints there. And this is a volunteer sunflower that also self-seeded itself. I did not plant it, it just came up on its own, but no complaints there either. As well, we've got some fava beans, which we did plant, that are doing quite well. We've got some turnips that we planted and some parsnip that we planted. So they're all kind of living together very much happily so. So we'll see how they do and how they grow and develop. My hope is that we'll have a variety of crops just in this little raised bed. And over here, there's a wildflower patch that we've got going on.
This is my favorite plant in the garden. I'm actually looking forward to seeing our raspberry plant grow. It has had a difficult journey to where it is today, and it is a good example of a comeback kid in our garden. Now, this monstrosity is actually an elephant garlic. They take about 8 months from seed to harvest. This batch was planted back in October of last year, and we're actually looking forward to a good harvest by the end of June to early July. This plant can grow as tall as 2 to 3 feet as indicated by this plank of wood. Now, you may have noticed many planks scattered throughout our garden. This is not an example of being a messy gardener. We are in fact using these planks as weed killers and pathways on muddy days. We'll now be moving on to our mystery patch. This is a good example of not labeling what you have planted because we have no idea what is currently growing. And it'll be a surprise when that plant comes up. In fact, to do at all. Take a guess in the comments below and tell us what you think is planted here. We honestly don't know or remember. In the next spot of our garden is our sweet potato experiment. Unlike normal potatoes, they must be grown from slips from previous sweet potatoes, and we are currently looking forward to a delicious fall harvest.
And here in the front of the garden, we've got another small raised bed set up where we've got some more elephant garlic growing. And this is a bit of a failed experiment for us, where we tried interplanting some other crops with this garlic just to see if we can get a little bit more out of this very small growing space. So we interplanted some spinach. You can see here, it's definitely not growing so well. We also interplanted some radish and some other smaller crops that in theory should go well with the garlic, but they didn't. This patch over here is a bit of a mix of different things. We've got a little bit of corn there at the front. We've got some turnips behind the corn. And then here in this patch, we've got patty pan squash and a pumpkin. So we'll see if they come up and grow well together. This in-ground bed here is a mix of bush beans and pole beans. So the pole beans have this little trellis set up so that they can climb up on it. And the bush beans that I've planted are much shorter plants. They don't really need any support, so they will grow just fine all around this in-ground bed. So there's 4 different varieties planted here: 2 varieties of pole beans, 2 varieties of bush beans. So we might end up having a nice bean harvest. And this raised bed at the front of the garden is a bit of a work in progress. It's a hugelkultur bed that we'll be setting up. More on that to come later, but it will be a bit of a lasagna bed where we'll be using different materials to build up the soil inside of the raised bed. It's a very interesting and fun experiment, and we're really looking forward to seeing how it works out. In the meantime, I've got some crops growing here until we're ready to set it up. So we've got some radishes, some peas, and some more fava beans set up for now. In the very center of the garden, we have this little patch set up with sweet William growing. I planted this from seed last year, but it didn't do so well and didn't give me any blooms last year. But it overwintered really nicely and came back, and it's looking really nice and healthy. There's a lot of buds all over it, and it's going to be a multicolor sweet William, so there's going to be different colors all over this little plant. And as well, in this little in-ground bed, we have some volunteer dill and some more volunteer sunflowers. So it's a nice little mix of plants growing here. And this is a picture of Sweet William just a few days later. Some of the blossoms opened up and you can actually see all the different colors on it. So this is our little update for the May garden tour. Much more to come in June.